So they outlawed it. You could only use the killed vaccine in the United States. So the drug companies took the live virus polio vaccine and brought it to the third world and started mass vaccinating them, knowing it was going to cause epidemics of polio. Well, then there's an article in the World Health Journal which says, well, yes, we did create an epidemic of this special vaccine called polio, but now that we've triggered it, we have to double our efforts at vaccination. This shows the insanity of these people.
But as you said, they are coming down with both feet with their propaganda right now out of desperation. I see it backfiring, Dr. Blaylock. We're about to go to break, but briefly, what are you seeing out there in the public?
Well, the public is a lot wiser than the medical profession overall itself, particularly the pediatrician. They understand what's happening. Because like you say, they read these stories, they talk to their friends and say, my child was perfectly normal and doing really well, was vaccinated. 2 days later, they end up with seizures that's uncontrollable or neurological deterioration. So, you know, any rational mind, when you're looking at cases all over the world, everybody's having the same experience. It's that close association. Only an idiot would deny that. Only
an idiot or somebody in denial because they've been shooting kids up and don't want to admit it. We'll be back with Dr. Blaylock. We'll give you his website, too. There is nothing more frustrating, nothing that makes me more angry than knowing that the bisphenol A, the fluoride, the shots is hurting people. I mean, the U.S. #1 in obesity, #1 in cancer, just #1 right down the line. And we're the main beneficiaries of this medical mafia. Going back to Dr. Russell Blaylock, MD, retired brain surgeon, neurologist. We've only got this short segment, one more little segment with you, Dr. Blaylock, and there's so much, obviously, to talk about. But anything else you think you should add on vaccines before we get some into fluoride?
Well, the really frightening thing about the vaccines is that these people know that they're endangered, so they're trying to push mandated vaccines in the states. That means you have no choice whatsoever. Well, a lot of the states that have mandated vaccines like HPV, the Gardasil, there's a lot of options opting out that's allowed. Well, there's some articles recently in JAMA, the journal of the AMA, which said we ought to get rid of the ability for these parents to opt out and these children should be forcibly vaccinated. Well, they know that if they have to debate this, they're going to lose. So they want to go to legislatures and judges, have this mandated, so you have no choice. They'll take your child away and forcibly vaccinate them. And then when the child is destroyed neurologically, they'll give them back to you and say, now, take care of the child. We don't think it had anything to do with the vaccine. Well, this is happening thousands of times, tens of thousands of times.
And listen, I was talking to this nurse and others. A lot of times when they make you get it and then now you're in a wheelchair, they don't even want to see you. It's like you don't even exist. They take no responsibility.
Exactly. And the doctors say there's no way that could be connected to the vaccine when there's a very good mechanism. You can do this in experimental animals. You vaccinate them with the same thing that's used as a immune adjuvant in the vaccine, you'll produce neurological injury. You'll produce paralysis.
Briefly, from your research and others, what on average is happening in the brain? Because you always hear it's when they give them the double, the triple. One reporter I was talking to, they said, oh, your child's behind. We'll give them 9 shots, 6 shots, 9 different viruses. And it was that night, convulsions, and for 4 years, screwed up guts, everything.
Well, it is absolutely proven. If you massively stimulate the immune system systemically, that is by a vaccine, it will massively activate the brain's special immune system, which is governed by microglia cells. And these pour out excitotoxins into the brain, as well as inflammatory cytokines for months, even years. And that's what's producing the damage and the death in these children. Well, this has been done experimentally in animals and thousands of laboratories all over the country. This is a very hot topic. Yet we ignore this research that shows that if you do this, you're going to get this damage and that the brain is highly vulnerable at this age. We just totally ignore it. And I parallel it to, well, what if you say it's important that people take their hypertensive medications, so we should make it where we don't tell them that there's complications to these medications because that might scare them away from taking the medicine. So we can start lying about side effects of drugs and everything else that has to do with surgery or anything else. We just won't tell people that things can happen. And that's exactly what they're doing with vaccine. They all admit these complications occur, but they say, well, if the public finds out, they'll be afraid to get the vaccine, and then we won't be able to.
Yeah, so they claim it's this trade-off, but then we know it's reducing immunity. We know it's not even protecting people in most cases, so it's a fraud when you break it down. We're about to go to break with just 5 more minutes with you, but looking at autoimmune responses, wasn't it the swine flu that killed tens of millions? It was an autoimmune response in the lungs that actually killed people. I mean, it's well known that a regular virus a lot of times kills you from the autoimmune response, correct, doctor?
Well, your body's overreaction to the vaccine, absolutely, and to the virus. But you see, this goes to an informed consent issue. Patients and families are being denied informed
Exactly.
consent.
Stay there. Back in 1 minute. Yeah, if you just tuned in, Dr. Blaylock was breaking down the fact that it's on the inserts of these vaccines. The doctors and people that tell you, oh, there's no mercury in there, or this doesn't cause neurological disorders, they know full well it's on the stinking insert. Instead, what the big companies do, or when you go to the pharmacy, is they have fact sheets that aren't the actual sheet. It's a bunch of propaganda. And they go, oh, everything's fine, honey. And it's because these cold-blooded companies want to make money and more. They want to set the precedent to basically carry out eugenics. In the 4 minutes we've got left with Dr. Blaylock, then we're coming back with your calls and a bunch of big news here on this Wednesday edition. You'd sent us a note, and we always appreciate being updated. We posted an article at Infowars.com titled, Fluoride Linked to #1 Cause of Death in New Research, that being heart attacks right ahead of cancer. We know it's linked to cancer, too. That's been admitted. And then you explained a subtlety in the article, the specific connection of fluoride to plaques in the arteries, and where the author may have misunderstood the scientific research. Dr. Blaylock, break that down for us.
Yeah, the article was misinterpreted. This is an area of research in which you're trying to find ways to scan people to see how much calcification they have in their coronary arteries, because we know that's strongly correlated to death from heart attack. So they found that you can radio label fluoride, now where you put a radioactive tag on the fluoride, inject it in the person, and it'll accumulate in these calcified plaques, and so you can see them. So it's not that the fluoride by this study was causing the plaque or causing the calcification. It's just a way to diagnostically look at it. Now, taking it further, looking at the research that really connects the two, what we see is that fluoride avidly attaches to calcium and cells that make calcium. So when you look at fluorosis, for instance, the spine will become so calcified, so many bone spurs on it, it'll crush the spinal cord, and a person can become paraplegic. Ligaments in the neck will become calcified and produce quadriplegia. And according to the literature, only fluoride overdosing can produce this condition.
And they've known this for a long, long time. This is one of the oldest studies, the things I've seen out there. So it basically creates just a sludge in the body and I guess, to simplify it, collects the calcium and things and allows it to bond together.
Right. The fluoride will bond to the calcium plaque. Well, fluoride is a highly reactive metal, and the studies have shown when it binds to that calcium plaque, it produces high levels of free radical damage to the vessel wall. Well, that's what produces atherosclerosis. So basically what they're showing is that if you're ingesting fluoride, it accumulates in the calcium, and that makes the calcium infinitely more harmful and makes the atherosclerosis progress much more rapidly and extensively. This has been shown in the brain. Any calcification in the brain, for instance, pineal gland, accumulates fluoride. They've examined pineal glands in humans and found that the levels of fluoride were 10,000 parts per million, an enormous level of fluoride. There's also a connection to excitotoxicity. We know that excitotoxicity is occurring in the walls of these blood vessels, these heart arteries, and that produces calcification. Then the fluoride combines with the calcium and worsens the excitotoxicity. I serve on the editorial board of the journal Fluoride, which is the only journal that deals with fluoride research in the world. It's the International Fluoride Research Society.
I tell you what, Dr. Blaylock, we were intending to have you go right now, but you've got to come back. I want you to finish this thought for just 2 minutes on the other side, and then we'll also, for the full audience, give people the websites, BlaylockWellnessCenter.com, invaluable information, BlaylockWellnessCenter.com, and RussellBlaylockMD.com. But I want you to be able to finish this thought, because this really is a true public service announcement. The system has known forever that fluoride calcifies in the bones, the joints, the arteries, everywhere. If you believe in this information and want to support its viral spread, go to the InfoWars store at InfoWars.com. We've got the new G.I. Joe InfoWars T-shirts. We've got the incredible ProPure gravity-fed filters available at InfoWars.com in the store. We've got a new DVD, Scientists Under Attack, the Don't Tread on Me flag. We've got all sorts of different bumper stickers to help spread the rebellion virally. It's all there. Wristbands, citizen rule books in every order. Order online at InfoWars.com today. The water filters, the canteens. It's all there. InfoWars.com.